They take the Grimstroke as well. One of those combinations for the Mars. Inkswell combination on hand. You've got some pretty good Soulbind combinations. Disruption's probably one that can make or break a team fight, like positively or negatively. But double Demonic Purge is going to be really strong in keeping heroes locked in. And of course, you've got some good combinations now for your mid. You still have access to the Ember Spirit, so Grimstroke Ember can still come online, and that could give you a much faster way of playing here for Polaris. Again, going back to what Lelouch did, I get why he was going for the Desolator, because they had a Slardar, and they had a Razor, a lot of physical output. But when you go Deso on Ember, that means you're not farming too fast, because you really get a little bit faster with a Maelstrom, it feels like. Just bouncing Chain Lightning off from your Sleight of Fist hit still feels a lot faster. And we just saw that slow down Lelouch's timing. So we'll see if the Ember comes through. I would prefer maybe a Maelstrom build-up and just kind of taking that early activity for the team, because Lelouch and Natsumi were basically stuck farming with not much to show for it, considering how much of the map they lost there.
Yeah. Well, Execration, 4th pickup now. It's pretty much the exact same draft as game 1 so far. I guess, you know, it's not broken, don't fix it, but they will get Tony out, Jonathan. So Tony makes his appearance here today, and I don't know, it's one of those picks, right? Like, you kept bringing up the whole 15-minute shard thing, and I agree with you. I thought that was going to be massive for good old Tony, but he hasn't really been performing as well as I would have expected as a hero, so... And you did make that point earlier as well, like... We haven't seen players taking the shards at 15 minutes, so it doesn't... I don't know if it hasn't really been figured out, or if it's not as efficient as you'd think, but at least in my mind as well, John, you would think having a Battle Fury level at minute 15 for 1400 gold would be a pretty damn good item to have, but I don't know, we haven't really seen it that much.
I think, to be fair, the one time we saw Tiny today, it was mid, and it did have to go for the Blink Echo. So... because of that blink, you didn't have the money for the shards, and you just kind of build elsewhere. You're not the big scaling core. In this case, with Tiny IO, you would reckon Tiny takes that pause 1. And I think from that position, Palos can definitely get the shard, get the Echo Saber shard by 15. He's going to feel great. He's going to be farming fast. He can look for relocate plays with the IO. So you have a lot of aggression on Execration side, just having that natural combination. For Polaris into the DP... and that is more than likely going to be our Lelouch hero on mid. Maybe they're expecting the Tiny mid. That Prophet can handle that lane quite nicely, although the toss back can make Spirit Siphon a bit of a harder sell. But it's still a lane that DP manages fairly fine. I don't think you are going to expect the Tiny mid. Again, it does feel a lot better on the safe lane. And you see Execration banning some safe laners, and Polaris banning out the mid matchups that they won't want to work with. They take off the Bob Batrider, which is also one of those heroes that has been speculated to be strong, but immediately getting nerfed. Still pretty nice with 50% chance to apply Napalm, but not as broken. I'm kind of sad we never got to see it in the pro game ourselves, Mike, where, you know, with a shard at 15 minutes, try to work towards a Manta, work towards a Moon Shard, run people down. I'm kind of sad we didn't see that. Like, all the stuff with Batrider gets instantly nerfed. Remember the Fey Grenade getting nerfed? Imagine if Fey Grenade still gave you Napalm as well. That would have been nice.
It really would have, John. It really, really would have. But we don't have that anymore. Instead, Execration, they'll go for a puck. Hero we haven't had the pleasure of seeing today, but still pretty damn strong in this current patch, I'd say. And yeah, I love the draft here from Execration. That being said, I don't mind what Polaris Esports have got as well. It's a much more standard kind of draft. Looks very good, kind of ticks all the boxes right now. You just need a strong position 1 to go into that Tiny. What options do you have? Like, you don't have the Life Stealer if you wanted that. You don't have the TB either. Anything pop out here, John? No TA either?
No Dusa. It's a bit tough. Like, I guess a Jug is an option. Slark could be an option as well. And Jug mainly because you could dodge out a lot of its Tiny's early burst damage. Could be one way. But Jug doesn't really deal with high armor here as well. Tiny just has a lot with Grow. Because Jug's physical output is strange. You know, he has a crit on hand. It doesn't feel like it scales all too well in terms of just raw output. You really rely on Omni Slash, and that can be tough to play around in terms of tempo. but it does fit the draft of Polaris. It can sustain their push with a DP with a healing ward. It can play really nicely along with a Mars and Shadow Demon to lock heroes in. A spin on top of the disruption could be a very strong lane. Inkswell on spin. So I don't mind a Jug. It doesn't feel like a really strong hero at the moment. I mean, it does show up every now and again, but up against Tiny, it just doesn't feel like it scales in the same way. Maybe if you get a Silver Edge to break, you could handle the Tiny a little bit better, taking away the bonus armor. At that point, though, he tends to have a lot of armor on hand. They go with a Kunkka instead, so a lot of sustain coming out from Polaris. They've got the team fight to play with the Arena Torrent, both, along with the Exa. So it is a really strong safe laner. It still is the issue of scaling, but you have that aggressive playstyle Polaris is known for. They've just got to execute. And I think that for this lane matchup for Natsumi, it's a lot more manageable. You can toss back onto Tino a lot more with the Tidebringer. Of course, Tino's still going to feel really secure with the IO, and I think with a shield crash on hand, the harassment you can dish out with Tidebringer is not going to feel as painful for Pangolier. So I don't think it's too tough of a time for Execration anyway.
No. I do like the Kunkka pick. I think it works very well with the draft Polaris has, and it's always one of those things, like when you've got heroes like Mars DP, which are very good at sustaining themselves throughout a fight and being able to reset, adding the boat rum on top of that to make them that much tankier, it gets very problematic to try and fight into. Still, I don't know which draft I like better, quite frankly, John. I really like that Shanks and Tino are back on the exact same heroes. That offlane duo of Pango and Io, very, very potent. Mind you, going against Natsumi's Kunkka, I highly doubt Natsumi has as bad of a time as he had on the Razor. Still, can you give me a prediction, John? Which draft do you think is better?
The Kunkka handles the Io relocate with the X really nicely, but you have the super powered Tiny, right? It's not just the Io. You have a Ogre Magi with a Bloodlust, so his right clicks are going to be through the roof. I think that's going to be enough to work against the side of Polaris, and as long as you get that stable start for Palos, you're not going to have too much of a problem. So I'd lean towards Execration just a bit, but Polaris certainly does have a lot better of a draft compared to Game 1. Very close, just a slight advantage for Execration in my mind, Mike.
Yeah. It's good to see both teams are still in high spirits. Go on.
You know
what?
Force is saying that they picked, you guys picked the Ogre, it looks just like you. Saying that to Vincenzo. Vincenzo's laughing. The second head is BDZ for Vincenzo. No, and Vincenzo's sad. His partner's gone. You know, that union between Vincenzo and BDZ was on for a long time. It's not there anymore. Carlo.
It was, John.
Gone.
Shout out to BDZ and Carlo. Same person, obviously, but
before we go on, we haven't given a shout out to our #1 admin. It's his birthday.
Oh,
happy birthday to you, Douglas. We haven't mentioned.
How
so there you go.
I apologize, Douglas. Happy birthday, Dougie.
Everyone in chat, tag him at Mr. Dougbot. Greet him happy birthday, and maybe he won't ban you. It's his birthday after all.
Dougie's getting a great birthday so far, John. I mean, it's been 3 very quick games for good old Dougie, so he's having a very good night. I don't think he needs our well wishes as Natsumi. It's going to be all right. He'll walk away.
The battle
Still,
begins.
happy birthday to Dougie. We love you, Dougie. Hopefully he gets all the best presents.
As you mentioned, Mike, I think he's having a blast today. We'll see how the lanes go, of course. Taking a look at that top lane first. Tino and Shanks again. Pangolier, Io. We saw this in Game 1. Very painful. Lots of sustain. And I think you might be able to better manage it with Natsumi on the Kunkka and Mavis on the Shadow Demon. So you can cut off the Io tether with the disruption. You can amp up some damage with the Shadow Poison landing through. And Natsumi can play around more with the Tidebringer. It's still kind of annoying for Natsumi. Shield Crash, Pangolier up against Mule here is always sort of painful. Shield Crash and Swash lets you trade really well for Tino. And of course, down the line, once you've got the value point and Lucky Shot, Disarm cutting off Natsumi from Tidebringer for even a second is going to be painful. Yeah, I think this is still a really strong lane for Execration, and Polaris still has to find a way to answer back up against how well Tino's been doing on the offlane.
That's the beauty as well, right? Like, if you do get a nice shield crash off, and you have the overpower back up from Shanks, those Tidebringer hits, they're not really going to be doing too much damage. So the Kunkka Pos 1, while it should be very lane dominant, may not really feel that way. Still mid lane. You've got Lelouch there against Bob, and it is the mid Mars against the mid Puck. For now, Lelouch should be able to dominate the lane just fine here on the Mars, as Bob is trying to get a little bit more aggressive here on this Puck. interesting kind of lane here for Polaris Esports, but I can see why. Against the puck, at least Mars can trade CS very effectively.
Yeah, you're not going to have that big sustain play, but you do have really good wave clear, a lot stronger than the puck in terms of damage early on. Doesn't cost too much mana. And of course, it's hard for a puck to completely zone out of Mars. He has a lot of HP on hand, and this is one thing we haven't seen too much with the Mars. I love the shake-up, so we're not just seeing the standard off-lane Mars. Lelouch is going to be working hard on that mid. Rune control is going to be a lot easier for Bob, considering he does have that illusory orb. Lelouch not going to want to give those runes away for free. They do have wards set up to kind of watch where the runes spawn, so they've got good vision to give them control and watch for the rotations from Exa. They should give Lelouch a much better start compared to game 1. He was off to a slow start in Lesh, up against Lesh. Not going to happen in this game with Mars.
Yeah. The last lane as well, John. Bot lane, you've got Vincenzo there, along with Palos against Force and Xavius. Not an easy lane, I'd say, for the Tiny either. Like, Force should be able to just run him down with the Spirit Siphons and surely be able to get some damage out, but it does seem like, at least for now, Palos is having a decent time. 11 CS, no real contest right now, and I suppose while you've got the Ogre Pos 5 around, it is quite hard to dive even with the DP. Because there's just so much damage that can be thrown out here from Vincenzo. And it can kind of just stop you in your tracks, and the counter initiation can get started pretty quick, as they might go right now. Xavius is out of position, but Palos doesn't seem to be ready to move in yet. So they'll just leave him be, and Vincenzo will just keep harassing away at the Grimstroke. Though I say that, Inkswell is going to land, but well, Vincenzo, he didn't really take much damage anyway. He'll just keep chasing him down.
Yeah, just playing tag, opening up the bot lane for the course to farm. Xavius isn't winning this, though. The ignite damage is stronger. Mango's here for the stun.
Oh, top lane Mavis in trouble. Tino going to be able to secure first blood again. I'm pretty sure last game around he got first blood on the Pango. He'll receive the exact same, and that's going to be his Orb of Corrosion up, which is going to make this top lane a lot more difficult now for Polaris.
Yeah, I mean, the minus armor on top of the swash. Once the lucky shot value points there, a lot stacking up. And it's just back to it. You know, it's Emili here up against Pango. It's not going to be an easy time for Natsumil, though he has more options to play. There's a lot of pressure on Mavis to really start getting some stacks up with a Shadow Poison. He can work the jungle to get that recovery farm, but you're going to have to secure your position in that jungle. Really nice early cliff ward from Execration should allow them to invade early on and stop that flash farm from happening.
So bot lane, very, very passive affair here between these two. Yeah, the aggression hasn't really been coming out yet from Force. It looks like he's just trying to secure his own CS and his own XP. It does feel like it starts to favor Execration at some point here down in the spot lane, though. Like, yeah, you might be happy to hit that level 6 timing for Force and then trying to make plays happen from there, but it's going to allow Palos plenty of time to get that initial farm up on the Tiny, which is usually kind of annoying to get, but he's top CS right now, so just no contest.
I think the issue is that you can't jump the Tiny. They'll try onto Vincenzo, but he's super tanky, and that's the issue with a run-in. It's either you get stunned up from the Ogre or you get tossed back by the Tiny, who does have that value point. I don't think it's a lane you can actually leverage too aggressively because of all the defensive potential coming through here from Execration.
Yeah. You see in the meantime, Shanks just stacking up that triangle, because you're going to want all these stacks available. Though he does miss the Ancients, to be fair. One of the Golems was moving a little bit too slowly, but nevertheless, stacks are being made. Tiny loves stacks. Natsumi, idiot jump now. Shanks and Tino will get to work as they don't see the Pos 5 around, but Mavis, he was still around the area in case. They always have the Shadow Demon ready if necessary. Though I say that, maybe he needs to back off now because Tino and Shanks gonna spot him out, but it seems like... No, never mind. I thought they only wanted that creep wave, but they'll jump in for a shield crash. Onto Mavis, into the swash, but a lot of the damage doesn't really connect onto that SD. Still, Tino, how confident are you to keep going? It looks like the answer is very confident, as he will just continue onto the SD, and Mavis will just drop as Shanks will tether right back to Tino. That's really concerning, John. They can dive a tier 1 top tower that long, and no punishment will come out towards Tino or Shanks.
We were building up the Shadow Poison stacks, not enough to melt the IO.
Here's the punishment.
It's just nothing to stop.
They found Bob John, mid lane. They don't rotate top, but they rotate mid, and they find it even better pick off in Bob.
Yeah, you're slowing down the puck. It's been a really strong lane for Lelouch. This is the launching point for Polaris. They can now, start to play around with the arenas. The Blink's not going to be too far off now for the build-up on Mars. They are starting to be aggressive onto Tino as well, just stacking up the damage. Shanks out of regen, so only playing passively right now, but once overcharges up, that corrects itself. I think overall, you're still very happy with the state of the game here for Execration. You're having a great time on Palos. Your mid lane, well, you did die, still matching up with Lelouch's farm. And you might be able to find a kill here.
Xavius, Inkswar gonna land. They're gonna try and protect Xavius as well, as Vincenzo now is the one in danger, as Lelouch has rotated over on that Mars. Avalanche gonna buy a bit of time, though Vincenzo still being body blocked as he is still somehow alive. He's gonna salve up, and he might actually turn back on Xavius. Orb will fly through. You've got Bob to join in. They finally kill off Vincenzo. And eventually Bob's gonna trade anyway. Goodness me.
Man. Yeah, that's a really clutch Fairy Fire right as the damage is coming in, keeping him alive, and then salve you. Sure, that's a lot of gold to trade away on yourself, but you're giving that gold back to the puck. That compensates for that debt Bob had on mid, evens out his gains up against Lelouch. It's still a really even game. I love seeing the aggression coming out from Polaris. That's exactly what they need to do in comparison to game one, but Execration are still in a spot where they're also getting farm. And it'll just boil down to, are you getting enough on your Kunkka up against Tiny? And it still feels like that Tiny 15-minute spike is a lot scarier in comparison to Kunkka. Just that shard, just the potential that Io relocates is still a threat that we haven't seen leveraged yet, but it's going to come out as this game goes on, Mike.
I think Polaris have to be very careful as well now, John, because you do notice the Ogre scouting out all the stacks being made, so Vincenzo doing a great job of just getting all this information for the team. And mind you, it might take a bit longer as you are still reliant on the shards of the Tiny to be able to really take these unless you group up the whole team. Same thing happening on the other side though, Mavis. Also going to scout out the stacks being made. Does go for some sentry ward blocks as top lane. There is a bit of initiation now onto the Pango. Tino going to try and roll his way out. Lelouch though going to chase him down, but they might not have the damage. And I don't think they do, as Tino will TP away and actually cancels at last second to boot. Shanks will heal him up and Tino has his own salve. As Natsumi now going to TP away. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, the stacks are being taken. Palos might need to TP out, but is going to get disrupted. And may just die here on this Tiny, as he has been left alone. Now, John, who got the stacks?
They managed to take it on Execration. Most of those went the way of the puck and Tiny, so you're very happy with just picking that up. Losing Palos does kind of hurt, but he did buy out his Ogre Axe right before falling, so he doesn't lose too much gold off of that. And you kind of block away that flash farm that you want to come out from Natsumi. He does have his armlet up. He's feeling pretty darn strong on the Kunkka. You really wanted to get that snowball gold while you can, because you're still playing against Tiny Io. You're still going to have to deal with the shards at 15 minutes, and they haven't been able to get that same invasion into the enemy into the opposite triangle. Despite having those sentries down, they're not taking those stacks themselves. That's going to be the worrying point here. We need to see maybe Polaris commit the same way in taking those resources out. Mavis is slowly poking and prodding with his Shadow Poison, not really fully committing. They do find Vincenzo and Tino, but it's only our Shadow Demon. Lelouch doesn't have his blink up to really gap close and get a good arena yet.
Certainly doesn't. 3 for 3 though. Very slight net worth lead here for Polaris Esports. Nothing to write home about. I'd say it's definitely a better game thus far here for Polaris though. Like last game they were really just struggling even early on, and now it's a very even affair, which is very good to see. And Natsumi top of the net worth board, which is something we couldn't say in game 1. The Razor just has no comeback potential once it does fall that far behind in the laning stage, but well, of course the Kunkka is a very different entity when it comes to farming, and is at the top right now. In the meantime, Lelouch trying to look for an arena onto Shanks, but unable to get it in time. That's going to be arena down for quite a while, and that might open up the map a little bit for Execration.
Yeah, they've got the opportunity to maybe look to force a fight. We haven't seen anything like a Dream Coil committed yet from Bob. That could be the spell they play around at this point, along with a Rolling Thunder, but they seem pretty satisfied farming, and I can't fault them. You still have a Tiny, still the IO, you still have items waiting to come out here for Tino. The Diffusal, it's not too far off, although still a ways off for the recipe. And I think they're just confident in those item spikes being bigger than Polaris. And Polaris are still also keeping up pace. Again, very even game, as you pointed out, Mike. They're all just waiting for those item spikes. No rush for either side to really get some pressure going.
Natsumi gonna keep farming up himself here. Big stacks to be taken here for the Kunkka. Gonna really help him escalate even more than he already has. Top lane, there could be a fight to break out as well as Lelouch has rotated here with the arena, trying to use that Tumbler's toy. Actually bounces across the tree line, which is kind of cute to watch. In the meantime, however, everyone's rotated away from that top lane, back down towards the bot side. Here from Execration. And they are actually going to make it in time to maybe scan out these Ancients. They have not finished yet. Natsumi now going to have to move his way back in, as they do have a bit of an attempt here onto the Shadow Demon, but Execration and Polaris, they're moving in. Soulbind out. They've locked down two of them, and this should be very fruitful now for the Dire Enders. Polaris Esports clean up Execration, and they'll be able to go back for those big creeps in the Ancient stack.
So securing that farm, finding kills they need. Oh,
Vincenzo gonna be healed up here by Shanks, but for how long? Not long enough. Force able to get another kill here for the side of Polaris, and it feels like now they could really start to move into that mid-tier 1 tower.
I'm surprised Execration didn't go for a relocate play on Palos. They were all grouped up in the triangle. If they found a relocate, they might have been able to get even more damage out with a tiny. And the issue right now for Execration is that you don't have the big items you need on Tino just yet to really burst yours down. Even Bob still waiting for that Witchblade up. So it's kind of lacking on the burst. You're playing against Kunkka with Boat. It's a lot more durable than the game 1 lineup of Polaris. And they just got punished for overcommitting. I think Execration maybe not having the same priorities together, maybe underestimating that durability of Polaris does get punished, and side of Polaris now starting to look more confident. They've got Travels up in Natsumi. He can show up all across the map. They're lining up down bot here.
Natsumi, Mavis rushing for this kills. Vincenzo going to be out of range. Was under vision there for a second, but they'll de-ward that. Meanwhile, Dream Coil committed by Bob. He needs some help around. They do actually break the coil, and now with the relocate, they're going to try and move in, but the disruption is out on Palos. Is it going to matter, though? Big Arena down as well. Lelouch catching up the Ogre. Nobody being caught out here by Polaris either, as the Grimstroke. Soulbind has been committed. Tino is just locked down as Mavis does finally drop, but so does Vincenzo. They will be able to find even Tino on the Pango, so Polaris really finding the better end of these trades. Execration still just not feeling like they have the damage yet.
No, they're not at that point yet. Echo Saber's up on Palos, still waiting for the shard. We're still a minute away. That should line up with his gold gain. They are getting some good pressure onto the mid, though.
They might be able to try on to Force, but Bob, he doesn't even have the Witch's Blade up right now. Like, you really are just lacking too much damage. Without the tiny shards up, sure, he's got an Echo Saber, but you haven't really seen him been able to kind of break the gap and actually hit anyone. It just feels like every team fight, they disrupt the Tiny immediately and just leave it at that.
They're just kiting Palos around at the moment. And it's all off the back of control, not just the disruption, but the follow-through, right? The Torrent, the X's to hold them back, the Boat threat every single time, prolonging the fights in favor of Polaris. Execration just kind of need to take it steady. They've been forcing a lot of fights. They do have the Diffusal up on Tino. And that might be some of the damage output that they've been lacking coming out on the Pangolier now. But Polaris has managed to make great use of that time. They've been stacking a lot with Mavis, using the Shadow Demon to its full potential. And they have maintained that network lead. Not much, but it is starting to add up on Natsumi. Rushing the BKB next. Once that's up, it's going to be hard to pin him down. You won't have the option to lock him in with your Puck, with your Pangolier. Most of the burst damage on your Tiny at the moment is Avalanche Toss, and that's not going to do anything against the Kunkka once the BKBs are flowing.
Yeah. Polaris still in a very good position here. 2k net worth advantage. Execration trying to avoid them right now, and I think that's a fair point to, or rather a fair decision to make here from Execration. Now Lelouch having that Blink Dagger up is going to be able to initiate without trying to use this Tumbler's Toy. Very, very good for him. Though you do also have the shards out for Palos, so Suddenly his farming does escalate quite a bit as they do try to go on to Natsumi, but he had the X-Back the whole time.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
And in the meantime, Force is just going to try and force in that mid-tier 1 tower with this Exorcism. I mean, why the hell not? Just force the rotations over and get Execration to take a team fight that they probably won't win.
Yeah, they're not in a position to really defend. They do have all their ults ready for the counterfight, but the tower just melts very fast at that Exo. Are looking to clump up though. They've always got the relocate on the IO Tiny, and the tower falls a bit too quick. And that should be a nice objective coming out for Polaris, as that should allow them to keep their control in the bot jungle. The side of Execration hasn't fully back though. Might be looking for an angle in once the Exorcism
Dream Coil is available from Bob. He's only going to find the Shadow Demon for now. So not quite the targets they would have really enjoyed getting, but it's something. It seems like Polaris Esports, so they'll get a free IO kill. Unless they make it in time for the tether, and Bob is trying to get there. In fact, never mind, but they brought the Tiny along with them. They're going to go for the team fight. They're going right in for the fight, though. Force already has a BKB up. He's happy to man fight this. In the meantime, Arena has been dropped. They lose trying to find Bob, but no Bob. He's going to get Xavier's down. Polaris, they are not winning this one, as it looks like they're just going to swarm them now. Natsumi has been caught. So is Force. They are both out of mana, and they are both set to die. And that was something that Polaris was just not expecting. Even we weren't expecting it, John. Shanks bringing back Palos and just forcing the fight.
I didn't think that they could collapse onto that area fast enough from mid. But to make it in time, they made it work, and this is what we've been waiting for from Execration. They needed a couple of items up. Just the Ag Shard and Palos allows him to rip and shred through everyone quite well, and that was a great play from Bob. He baited out the spear, he baited out the arena, just by staying in the phase shift. 3.25 seconds, Polaris feeling a bit antsy, maybe thinking Bob would pop out a bit earlier, not getting locked down and puck. Did manage to give Bob the opportunity to clean up the backline as well. And this is where things can get a little bit dicey for Polaris. They had a really strong start, they had a really strong mid-game presence earlier on, but what do you do about the Tiny with Overcharge and Bloodlust, Mike? He has a heck lot of attack speed, 275 just with the buffs. I mean, his output's just insane right now. How is this balanced? How?
We don't question the frog's balance, Jonathan. We don't question these things. We just accept them. That's how we've always done it in Dota, and that's how we'll always do it, John. Palos. I mean, he is attacking quite fast. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It is quite scary. That's for sure. And I mean, Morgans, I don't know why you're talking about attack speed, John. We're talking about a 15-minute Battle Fury for 1,400 gold that you can theoretically just toss away and do even more damage. Well, who the hell cares about the attack speed?
Yep. Ain't that great? Ain't it beautiful, Mike?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things, again. I think I was talking to, again, Mr. John Crest about it, and it feels like one of those things that the consequences weren't, you say 15-minute charge, you don't think it's busted, right? Like, you don't think about the edge cases like Tiny, like Quap, who has an insane jump-in potential with her shards. It is strong in the right hands. I mean, we're seeing Tiny really be the one, and for a while we saw Batrider be one of them. That gets emphasized with that. I think Queen of Pain is pretty darn good. There's potential for Kunkka. Maybe Tide is pretty darn good, plus 90 damage for 1.4 in AoE. It feels like Tide Shard has been one of those items that a lot of people just underrate. At 15 minutes in, though, having that siege potential with it, I think there's some potential there for Pause 5 Tide to just work towards 1.4k gold and push a tower. Maybe.
I mean, why not?
That could be something.
I was thinking, John, do we ever see like an Aghanim's hilt or something come out? Like, you've got the... Well, you've got the gemstone. You've got the shard. Is there not something to connect those two things together? Like a staff of some sort? In fact, hold that thought, because Vincenzo's been jumped on here, so it's going to be an Ogre kill coming up for Polaris. Immediate rotations, however, and a Dream Coil being committed. This is not a good trade at all. They might even lose another. Davius, he's going to try to run, but they have another swashbuckle if they need it. And Tino, he's looking for a Rolling Thunder. They might just go for the full-blown team fight. Bob's in on 3. They want that Shadow Demon and Mavis. He will be the third to go down as Bob's got a triple kill and he just wants even more. It's not done yet. Phase shift is there in time. BKB's pop up Bob. He's going to reset here from Shanks. They could keep going after these BKBs, but they've got to wait them out first. As Palos, he'll man fight Force now. Avalanche Force is up, but Force, he's keep going. Back in onto Palos as Shanks is going to try and protect. In the meantime, Natsumi and Palos, they will both drop. So it's going to be a 1-for-4 trade in the favor of Execration. Though I suppose the one saving grace is the fact that you at least found this Tiny.
Yeah, they managed to punish Palos just a bit, but you lose way too much for it. And that gold going on to Force, well, it is nice. It's not the hero you want really farmed up. You know, you want that to put Kunkka. He falls a little bit too fast in the middle of that engagement. Very split up fight. They lost to Mars first and just collapsed from there. Execration, knowing that without the arena, without that control from Lelouch, it would be very difficult for them to actually clean up more heroes on the side of Execration. So a great readout from Exe. And that arena was used on what? That stemmed from that kill on Vincenzo, right? Like that was arena committed for an ogre, not the big kill you'd want on Polaris, and just gave a pretty nice opening out for Execration in the end.
Yeah. Polaris not out of this game. Yeah.
I've had a couple of thoughts. Yeah, I've been thinking about the defusal. Right, so it's cheaper. It doesn't give you the same stats, but it's a lot cheaper. I think the one issue with it is that Inhibit was not changed to reflect its cheaper price.
No.
It still has a ridiculous slow that you can cast from 600 range with no projectile speed relocate.
Natsumi, BKB, he does not have a TP available right now. He will X up at least one, and that is going to be Shanks. Still Tino looking for the chase down of this Kunkka. They'll go for the Rolling Thunder. They know they can get this kill, or at least force out a bunch of rotations. As Bob, he's just going to move in and take one of them out. Rolling Thunder back in on Natsumi. Tino, he's going to try and get done himself. Mavis, he does have disruption. He might be able to save Natsumi here, and should be just fine to do so. In fact, never mind. Bob's in with the silence. They've got Natsumi, though. No, the armlet toggles are there, but the orb is going to be enough from Bob. Tips out from Palos, as Bob may go down, but it's for the greater good. As Tino will just keep going. Onto Mavis, and he's out.
Oh, man. Really deep dive. Great plays coming out. Maybe a bit disjointed because Tino backing off with the Rolling Thunder, not wanting to get soul binded up. Does lose a little bit of that. Maybe not expecting that instant burst on the Grimstroke, but they find the opening there on Execration's end. They get the punishment. They get the big kill on Natsumi once more. The Kunkka starting to slide behind here, Mike. 10k net worth, reaching 11, 3k almost behind Palos. You do have some good ways of keeping up on that Kunkka. It doesn't feel like the space is coming through once more for Polaris. It feels like they're being constrained, being forced to respond every single time to the movements of Execration, and we're not seeing Polaris be the aggressors. Every time they do, they're only catching out an Ogre Magi. It's just not enough.
Force. I think they were trying to force him to BKB TP, but that's not going to happen. Smoke out as well. Polaris Esports, they might try to get aggressive here as they may have smelt out the Roshan. Who do you jump first? I mean, you really want that IO. Vincenzo is not the target you want to go after, but they're going to try anyway. Arena down with the spear, and they just let Vincenzo die. So you found something. It seems like with that, they have to go for Roshan now.
Yeah, but it's the same target again. This is the second time in a row we see Arena committed onto the Ogre alone.
With
and Roche has opened up. Yeah, with Exorcism as well. Roche opens up. You have Rolling Thunder, you have Relocate. You can still fight here if you're Execration.
Yeah, and Tino's got the Invis rune. He's just waiting for Roshan to drop. He's looking for the steal attempt on the Pango, and well, that's it. I mean, Arena, Exorcism, it leads to just a +5 kill. That's literally it here for Pirates.
Not good news, Mike. Yeah. It's like, again, that third time you've seen. And now it's open for Palace. His damage is a lot faster. He's got the silver hit. He's got a crit. Not going to take long for him. And they know there's no Arena Exo. What are you going to do? Just toss the boat out and hope for the best? I think that's the ideal here for Polaris.
I think they're going to try something. I don't think they can really afford for this Roshan to go the way of Execration right now. At least a blink steal attempt or something like that. You still have the boat. Lelouch still has Arena in 23, but no, never mind. Bob's in. Bob found a great dream call out. Disruption already being committed, but here comes Tino onto Natsumi, just controlling up the back lines. They've already taken down Xavius. They've got Force controlled up. They'll force him down as they've even still got the Kunkka being controlled. Tino just perma-stunning him. And he'll BKB and just die to the right clicks. As Bob is still hunting, he wants Lelouch. He wants the full team wipe. And he might just get him. Blink away from Lelouch. He'll run towards the south with the TP towards the outpost. He'll take the bounty rune, but here comes Tino. Arena gonna be dropped. Orb is there. They got the purge off. Can they stop the TP though? It doesn't seem like it. So they get the Roshan. They get 4 heroes wiped here from Polaris Esports, and well, it seems like Execration are still well and truly in control of this game number 2.
They just make that work really well. And that disruption save looked good from Mavis. It blocked in Xavius. There was no micro on the illusion, so Xavius was just stuck on the cliff. He didn't manage to get great uses out of his spells, not even getting out from the soulbind before dying. It might have been a different situation if he had that opportunity to re-angle. But Execration just plays so fast, plays so quick, force out these spell uses. What do you do about this Tiny? 16k net worth. Silver Edge up, Satanic flying out now, Mike. If his sustain wasn't insane enough with Shanks around him, with Satanic lifesteal, I don't see a solution. We don't have anything like a Halberd coming through anytime soon from Polaris. No Spirit Vessel as well to mitigate the healing. You just have this Tiny that has 22 armor at level 19, 25 minutes in. 400 plus 132 damage with a crit stick. It's balanced, Mike. What can you say?
It certainly is, John. All we need now is a tree volley, and that would really add to the spice here. Look at that. One hit, half HP gone. There's your Mars, John. Meanwhile, Force again just being controlled up by Tino. They'll soulbind him up, lock him down for a little bit. You've got to worry about this Tiny, as they do make the jump in with the Torrent, but Palos, he's still very healthy as Tino. He's surviving as well. The IO keeping him alive. In the meantime, Palos looking to reinitiate. Does move in onto Natsumi, waiting out the BKB timing to end. And it will. And they still have the Aegis as Bob is going to terrorize Xavius. And they drop an Arena for absolutely nothing. Just trying to catch this puck, but Bob is not giving the opening. Back in on Force they go. Disruption again to save, but Palos is already there. Just one swipe will take him out. It's feeling like Execration. They're in a position to go right after Megas. Even without Creepshot. Look at Palos. Straight through backdoor.
What is backdoor when you have 400 damage with this much attack speed with an IO Ogre? It's nothing.
It's more like 600,
right through it, doesn't matter.
600 damage, Jonathan.
Pretty much. And they're just ripping through the backline. They can't even come into the defense right now.
Oh, Tino, he might die here, and he's made so much space for his team. Meanwhile, Bob, I mean, I guess I should just keep the camera on Bob, but he's just been popping off, but they finally, never mind, they do not catch him out. Spear was not available. I don't believe X was either. Maybe they can still force Palos to back off, but he's got Shanks right behind him, and well, Natsumi now going to show up. You've thrown the soulbind out, but what does that actually mean? Lelouch will go after the Ogre. Vincenzo's fine, however, and well, Lelouch is not. He certainly is not very fine. His Inkswell won't land either. Natsumi's still trying, but Palos is happy to keep fighting. He is still very healthy with an Aegis up. They got the Ogre, but now the toss back on Force. In fact, that 3-man Dream Coil. Bob's caught it pretty much everyone. Who do they want to go down, though? They'll aim Mavis on that Shadow Demon with a Dagon. They'll blow him up. There goes Xavius to boot. Now Force just being tossed around. They actually helped Force out for a bit there. Just give him a break. Palos just wants to end the game.
Yeah, he's objective-minded, Mike. He knows they can't be too silly. Relocate from Shanks? Where's he off?
Look at Bob.
Look
at Bob.
Oh my god.
Bob's a monster, John. 16
Bob
kills.
the Wrecker, Mike.
Hey, Bob the Wrecker indeed, Jonathan. GG. They've had enough. What a dominant 2-0 series from Execration. And I know both you and I are kind of surprised by this, because we would have gone in thinking Polaris were the favorites, John. But Execration, I mean, you've got to give it to them. They looked very clean in this best of 3.
Exactly it. You know what? When we were coming in to BTS Pro Series 10, Phase 1, Phase 2, we already kind of knew that Tino was coming in here, right?
Yeah.
Like, we knew a rough form of their lineup. They didn't reveal it until after Phase 2 almost. And this is the Execration I was expecting. Coming in with Bob Vincenzo coming in, you know, Tino, Shanks, Palos. It's a very scary team. These guys are experienced in Div 1. They've had their moments in Majors as well for some of the players. And Polaris, they're the hopefuls. This is a really good reflection as to what might happen in that DPC Tour 2, Mike. Polaris are the hopefuls coming in from Div 2. They looked really strong coming in. They had a really good run in Pro Series 10, Phase 2 and Phase 1, but not enough. Like, they had this lineup maybe boiling down to draft, maybe boiling down to understanding of the patch. I feel like Execration has shown us in this series, they understand the patch really well, and they're working together as a cohesive unit. Polaris is going to have to watch out for themselves. That is the end of their journey here. But I'm excited to see what happens for Execration. They look on fire, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, look, props to Polaris. Obviously, they have been knocked down, and some people were commenting on the fact that they think Polaris is just testing out drafts, just testing out the new patch. But you can't take away from Execration. I mean, they played that series very, very cleanly. And we'll see if they can do with their next series, John, because they're against T1 now. Right? So, all right, you beat Polaris Esports, fair enough. Can you beat T1? That's what I'm intrigued in now. Very excited to see this next matchup between them and T1. And of course, Lil Gunner and Team Orca also on tomorrow. So a big day for the BTS Pro Series Season 10. With that though, for us, Jonathan, it's been a surprisingly very early night. Very early night. I don't know what to do with myself.
Well, there are a couple of things. There's a boom match coming up. I know what I'm going to be doing. And of course, Douglas, it's his birthday. He got his birthday wish. It's a great night overall. We make it in time. I'm looking forward to see Owen, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, well, everyone, you know what to do. You know where we're going. Boom Esports is playing right now, or very soon, Jonathan. It's very exciting. See if they can continue their crazy performance in the international scene. As it is MLP Dota and it is JohnXfire, and we'll stop talking now. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys next time.